Today's webinar, the topic, as you can see, is winning a new customer in a competitive market. Now, this webinar will be given by Steve Welch, who's the National Sales Manager of SolidCAM Incorporated in the United States. And I've had also the pleasure of working many times with Steve on the road, and I can tell everyone that he's probably one of the best salespeople that I know of. So, Steve, without any further ado, I will make you the presenter, and you can go ahead and start the webinar.
Sounds good, Sydney, and thank you for the introduction. The check is in the mail too, Sid. So
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. I'm going to throw myself on the sword too. The late start, couple minutes.
Oops.
Sid, can everybody hear me now?
Yeah, I'm sorry, you were accidentally muted. Go ahead. Go ahead and start.
Okay, good. Well, I don't know if people caught it, but the 2-minute delay was my fault. I had myself on mute on my headset, so I apologize for the little late start. So anyway, I'd like to thank everybody for the attendance and time today. I'm really hoping you find it valuable. To kick this off, I guess what I'd like to do is put my definition of sales out there, and really what it boils down to is helping customers get what they want, so in turn we can get what we need. And it's kind of interesting because we're in the process of interviewing over here, and one of the interviewees, we asked her, what really motivates you? And her response was, well, helping people. And there was no mention of winning or, you know, the rewards that winning brings. Kind of interesting. I don't think you'd be in sales if you weren't a competitive person and didn't enjoy, you know, the rewards of what gaining a sale could be. But at the end of the day, you really have to, you know, help your customer, and the good things will follow after that. So you just get to the slide of what we're covering today. We're going to cover some prospect identification. We are going to be doing, or another person will be doing a follow-up presentation on quality prospect identification. So this part of mine will be maybe a tad brief. We're also going to go through lead qualification. And then, in my mind, probably one of the most important is differentiating yourself and SolidCAM. So for the prospect identification, we're going to be, there we go, looking at identifying your target market. You know, I think this is probably one of the most important. I'm sure that each region has areas and industries that they've been successful and strong in, and we definitely want to be focusing on those. There's always, you know, good stories to tell, others that you've helped, where SolidCAM has really worked and fit. So I think identifying your target market before you even get started is going to be one of the keys. You know, you want to identify where you have the best chance to win. So next point is going to be where to get leads. And I think probably a review for everybody, but current customers are always going to be your best referral source. The happy user is going to be more willing to open up and talk to you and potentially provide you additional leads. But one thing I found since I've been at SolidCAM, and I brought this up to a few people, was I thought there would be a lot more current customers saying, hey, my neighbor has Mastercam or Esprit and is unhappy. Why don't you go and talk to him? Or I know somebody that's using a CAM software that really isn't happy, and you should go talk to him. They do come in. I'm sure everybody else gets them. But the thing with current customers, in my mind, and what I've been told, is that a lot of times they're seeing SolidCAM and particularly iMachining as a key advantage that they have over their competition. So, you know, having them kind of let that cat out of the bag and share it with the world can be a little bit tough for them, because again, there are more popular CAM products out there, and they're using SolidCAM to their advantage to, you know, really be more efficient or more productive. What I've tried in these situations is to, you know, maybe ask for their suppliers or people that, you know, they're doing business with. So it's not like it's going out to, you know, a direct competitor of theirs. The other thing that, you know, maybe works would be, you know, a different industry, or, you know, somebody not in a similar segment of the market as they are. And the other thing I stress is that if we can grow this user base, it's going to be advantageous to everybody using the product. More customers means more revenue, means more development, just an improved product all the way around. But, you know, with current customers, I always just boil it down to, hey, you're happy with you're happy with SolidCAM. Are you aware of anybody else out there that we could potentially help? And just leave it at that. Next area to gather up leads would be partners. I think Bakur 2 weeks ago did a great job of covering this aspect of lead identification. Boy, if we follow his model there, I think we can be highly successful. You want to develop those partnerships. The important piece, and I know Bakur alluded to it in his presentation, is this really has to be a relationship that has to be developed, and it also has to be a two-way street. We've had multiple people approach us that, hey, you know, we do this and we'd like to partner up with you. I always look at it as, okay, we'd love to do it, see how it works out. I'm going to provide you a couple leads. If nothing comes back, their heart really isn't in it, and you kind of get the gist of where they were coming from. So I think I want to stress on partners. Really provide them some leads, and it will come back to you, you know, fourfold. And as that relationship gets stronger, it really it can be mutually beneficial for both organizations. The partner leads that we get, I wish there was such a thing as an easy or a lay down sale. You can't take anything for granted, but a lead coming from a partner, you're way ahead of the game versus a lot of other lead types. So create those partnerships, provide them leads, see where it goes. It can be a strong prospecting piece for you. So another area to get leads is media, both social and standard news organizations. You know, on the social media, I'm going to suggest getting involved in things like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, maybe start a blog. We call them millennials over here in the States, are really not so much, you know, newspaper oriented or traditional media type consumers. They're involved in these online resources. So I think anytime you can get your name out, or the SolidCAM name out, in some of those online resources, again, Twitter, blogs, Facebook, it would benefit in awareness and making people you know, understand who SolidCAM is. The other thing on social media I'd like to maybe stress is answering questions on message boards. The one thing you want to be a little careful about here is you don't want it to come across as a huge SolidCAM sales pitch. People are looking for good information, true and honest information. If you can get involved in a message board and maybe answer a question or two, does the same thing as the others I mentioned. It creates awareness, identifies you as maybe an expert in your field, and hopefully can drive, new business your way. So news media, I think there's still a place for, standard old newspaper, trade magazines, just any traditional media outlets that you could keep an eye on. Companies are always expanding, they're moving areas, moving into new locations. Try to stay aware of, what's happening in your specific area. Typically, if there's an expansion or a move into into your area, that's going to create new needs. And I think it also speaks, if you're reaching out to these folks that are new in your area, it's that you're paying attention and are interested in what's going on in the manufacturing world in your sector. So, newspapers, trade magazines, online trade, trade information. Keep an eye on that. See what's going on in your territory, and really try to reach out to those organizations that are expanding or possibly have new needs. Cold calling, tried and true, the old standard. I think it's still highly valuable and viable. The key is going to be developing a good list to call on. I've been in sales myself for 30 years, and one of the things that was brought up because I sold office automation, i.e. copiers and fax machines. One of the things an old boss brought up to me is, Steve, you're going to have to do a lot of cold calling. A lot of people aren't going to be coming to you. It's going to take 7 touches for you to, make your presence known to these folks. So it's easy to get discouraged. It's rare that you're going to call somebody and they're going to say, hey, I'm glad you called. I'm actually looking for software this afternoon. You just have to start the process. You have to identify who you would, be a fit for. And if you're not a fit, X those folks off of the list immediately. But those that you get a feel that could benefit from SolidCAM software, you just have to stay on top of those, providing value when you can. It's a combination of phone calls, emails, making them aware of webinars, other interesting information that's going on in manufacturing, not always just a call to say, hey, are you ready to buy CAM software? Try to provide value to those cold calls. And again, remember, it's going to take a lot longer than somebody approaching you because they visited our website, but still highly viable. I think I've always looked at it that if I can supplement the leads that are given or handed to me based on customer interest or visiting our website or hearing about us somewhere else, if I can blend those into my own efforts and cold calling and reaching out to people, boy, you're never going to be wanting for leads. So longer term strategy, in my opinion, still highly viable though. Trade shows. I know we all do the big major ones. One thing we're trying here in the U.S. is more industry-specific trade shows. We're involved in a gun manufacturing trade show coming up soon. We've been involved in a automobile racing specific trade show lately. They're not quite as large as an EMO or an IMTS, but there's not as much competition there. It's a nice, low, I guess, I don't want to say lower, but maybe lower profile type show. All the CAM players typically aren't at these. So when people are walking around these smaller trade shows, they see a CAM provider and it's easier to strike up a conversation versus at an IMTS or maybe an EMO when they're going from booth to booth to booth to booth, with 6 or 7 different CAM, providers right next to each other. So trade shows are a definite good option for driving leads. I think if we're not an exhibitor at a trade show, and there is one in your area, check it out. It can be a great place to, develop relationships, talk with folks, mention what we do, see if there's a fit, see if you can develop a partnership. So I'd highly suggest any manufacturing related trade show, if we're not at the show ourselves, definitely attend it, open up some lines of communication, and it can be a great way to develop some more leads for yourself. So again, I think where to get qualified leads, we're going to cover this a little bit more in a subsequent session here, but just a couple thoughts that that we're using over here in the U.S. to try to drive interest and awareness. So bullet point number 2 is going to be qualifying your lead. I look at this as kind of a doctor analogy. You don't walk into a doctor's office and the doctor doesn't come right out of the chute, oh yeah, you have a bad knee. We don't want to immediately do a feature dump to somebody on how great we are and what what all of our capabilities are. I think the first point in qualifying is going to be, you have to learn about their organization. You have to do your homework. Again, starting in sales as far back as I did, this was tedious and a process. Now with the internet, you can glean a ton of great information about that organization just off of the internet and what they put out about themselves, what internet resources are saying about the company, and it just speaks to your attention to detail. So you want to understand a bit about that organization, and also couple that with how you've helped perhaps similar organizations in the same industry. So definitely want to to learn about their organization before making contact with those folks. When contacting and inquiring about their company, you want to really spark the conversation and get them talking about what makes them unique. People love to talk about their organization and how good they are, what they do, how they win business. I think any initial qualification should start with, hey, tell me a little bit about your organization and what makes you unique. And definitely want to listen, because they'll share a lot of information. If they're a low price, leader or volume discounter, that says one thing to the salesperson. If they're based on quality, timely delivery, that says another thing about their organization. So anything that you can understand from them directly about their organization and what makes them different is highly, highly valuable. Kind of goes without saying, you have to understand their current manufacturing process. This is more of the basics. The types of machining that they're doing, whether it's milling, turning, live tooling, Swiss, what types of machines they have, what types of materials they're cutting. Just that whole thing about, what types of manufacturing work are you doing and how are you doing it today? So really anything involved in them out the door, we want to understand how that takes place, what the workflow, understanding the current manufacturing process is critical. Rubber really hits the road in my mind. People are typically.
Just hold on a second. Can you just repeat what you said for the last minute? You were having a little problem with your microphone or with your audio.
Oh, serious? Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Yep. No, understanding the current manufacturing process, it's kind of the basics. You're going to want to understand what types of machines the customer's using, what type of manufacturing they're doing, whether it's milling, turning, live tooling. Swiss machines, materials that they're cutting. You want to understand that whole workflow process of how they're getting parts out the door today. It's the basics, but it's critical. Unless you understand how they're doing things today, how can we recommend changes to improve their situation? So, Sid, everybody's hearing me okay again?
Sure, no problem. You're fine. Go ahead.
Okay, good deal. Here's really, in my mind, what we're looking for in qualification is identifying pain points. And this can get very tricky because everybody's proud of their organization. You don't want to call out people and say you're doing it wrong or doing it backwards or that's not a smart way to do things. You don't want to come across as insulting their current process. What you're trying to understand is where the pain points are. A couple of the questions that I use here are, what are some things that you feel could be improved upon regarding your current manufacturing process? Another one, what are some things that you could feel, or if you could wave a magic wand and change anything about your current workflow, what would that look like? Or, if you had the option, or what's really causing pain or heartburn in your current manufacturing process? And then the important point here is to shut up. A lot of times people will just say, well, boy, yeah, if we could decrease our turnaround time, it would make our customers a lot happier. Or we're missing deadlines because it's taking too long to get parts programmed. Or we've had to scrap a ton of material due to mistakes in programming. It's important that you ask that question about what are the pain points, what would you like to see, or what could be improved about your current process, and then shut up and let them talk. I know a lot of times in sales, if there's some silence, it can be uncomfortable and the salesperson wants to hop in and immediately start talking. When you ask that pain point question, please, it's worked for me, just shut up, because a lot of times if you ask that question, there's a little bit of an awkward silence. It feels like you should say something. Don't, because what's going on in the prospect's mind is they're thinking and going, and it might take them some time to put that together and be able to verbalize it to you. So ask that pain point question. What do you feel, what's holding your organization back from growth? Or where are the bottlenecks or the choke points in your current manufacturing process? Shut up. There are some times that people just won't know what to answer. Then after a period of time, if there has been silence, you might want to do some, what about this? What about part turnaround time? What about part programming accuracy? What about quality of the parts you're putting out the door? You may have to lead them a little bit, but again, I think it's important for them to get out what they feel needs improvement in their organization. So at that point, well, a couple other points on that. After you've heard what the pain point is, you want to reiterate to those folks so so they know you understand what they said. If I heard you correctly, Mr. Customer, what you told me was you're not meeting deadlines and that's causing problems with your customers and they're having to explore other options. Or as I understand it, you shipped out a batch of parts to a prospect that were incorrect, and that really created some friction with that current customer. Is that what I'm hearing? So you want to reiterate exactly what you heard and reiterate that to the customer. And at that point, once you've gained that understanding, the next statement would be, what would it mean to your organization if we were able to alleviate those problems? Would you have quicker turnaround time? Would you be in an improved competitive position? Would you become more profitable? things along those lines. It's still a little early in the game. You're just trying to qualify that situation or that customer to see if SolidCAM is a fit. And, you're going to want to talk about some of the benefits of, what they've brought up and what we can do. But the point at that point, after you've asked that question, what would it mean to alleviate those issues? You have to close for the next step, which would be, possibly a demonstration, or, another on-site visit with the technical person, or, whatever the intelligent next step would be. It could be, like I said, it could be a demonstration, it could be, an on-site visit, on-site prove out, or whatnot. But it becomes important in qualifying that you have to gain agreement that, yes, indeed, this warrants some of my time to take a next step. And then you have to ask for, what that next step would be to move that sale forward. One thing about sales too, is you're always trying to move the process forward. And if you get to a stage where it's just not a fit, there's no harm in saying, hey, it's rare that somebody has everything 100% buttoned up, but I have run across it where, hey, yeah, they're doing everything as good as they possibly could. We're not a fit for you today. We'd welcome a chance to re-engage with you down the road. But typically, organizations are always, especially in this global economy, you're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. There's no staying stagnant. It's rare where we can't find one area that we could improve their situation, but they do come up. I guess the important thing in sales is to continue to move that process forward, next steps to a potential close and SolidCAM purchase, until you find that, hey, it's just not going to work in this situation. So, all right. Differentiating yourself from the competition, probably one of the most important. It'd be nice if we were the only CAM software on the market, because we really wouldn't have to differentiate ourselves. But as everyone knows, we're not the only game in town. And differentiating yourself, in my mind, and I really kind of struggled with how to outline these, but in my opinion, a salesperson has to sell themselves first. Another piece of sage advice that I got early in my career was that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I've been involved in previous lives in a lot of situations where it was just a feature dump, where a salesperson went in and just said, we can do this, we can do this, we're great at this, we can do this. Kind of that shotgun approach where I'm going to tell you everything that we can do, and hopefully one of those resonates with you, where if you've qualified the person, understand their situations, show true empathy, and that you're interested in helping their organization be more successful, people are going to take notice and are going to be confident in you. People definitely, at the end of the day, people definitely buy from people they trust and like. This is really a relationship type sale, and it's not just you sell a set of tires and shuffle them out the door and talk to them in 50,000 miles again. This is an ongoing process. So you have to sell yourself, you have to show empathy, you have to show attention to detail as well. And one of the things about selling yourself is just as quick of a response time as possible. So people know they can depend on you when there's something going on that maybe isn't going quite as planned. Hey, we have the traditional steps in place for issue resolution, but if it becomes an urgent situation, these folks want to feel like they bought software from somebody that's going to get them results. So sell yourself first. I guess talking about your experience in the industry, if you're a little bit newer in the business, You can lean on happy customers of your organization. I think, talking to prospects about people that you've helped in the past, what you've done, how you've made other organizations successful. It doesn't have to be all about experience in this industry. So selling yourself, in my opinion, is top of the list. Here's where I really wrestled with what would come next, whether it's the organization or whether it's the software itself. After a little bit of soul searching, I did come up with, have to differentiate your organization. I'm firmly convinced that SolidCAM software is the best software on the planet for CAM, but I think to the untrained eye, it can get really difficult to determine the nuances between us, MasterCAM, Esprit. In my opinion, you have to differentiate your organization. And what I always start with is our experience in this industry. SolidCAM has been around since 1984. So we're experienced in developing, selling, and supporting CAM software. I always go back to the organization is still privately owned by a dedicated, passionate machinist, Emil Somek. He's involved in the business on a daily basis. This is going to make us, because we aren't part of a large conglomerate, this is going to make us more agile and adaptable. We're able to listen to customers and improve the software year over year, because we're not a global giant like maybe a MasterCAM. Every SolidCAM customer in my mind has a voice. So again, going back to the organizations, one of the two main benefits here in the US are just post-processor support. I can't tell you how many customers we've gained because they've had a competitive product, and although the software might be okay, they could not get a post-processor developed to support their machine properly. Post-processors are something that are taken very seriously at SolidCAM. We haven't met a machine that we can't provide a post-processor for, as long as it accepts standard normal G code, even Swiss. Really, the post-processor can be expected to be dialed in when you purchase the product from SolidCAM. So definitely want to lean on post-processors that we provide. And then technical support. Again, differentiating your organization. This is, again, towards the top of the list. Technical support. The US has started keeping track of a customer rating system. I think we're at about 4.7, 4.8 out of 5-star ratings, over 250 ratings. The technical support has to be stressed as a differentiator, because I don't care what type of software and what area it's in, it's going to require some help. The customer is going to require some help. And what kind of support can I expect out of the software that I'm buying, i.e. SolidCAM? So I always lean on tech support, and is provided by experienced machinist programmers. All of our guys have walked miles in a programmer machinist's shoes, so we speak their language. We even are able to, because of our experience in tech support and the guys providing it, we're able to provide support not only in picks and clicks of the software, but if you're up against a new part or a different material, our guys have been there and done that, probably seen it in their days in an actual production environment. We're here to support our customers, not only just, hey, where's this button in the SolidCAM software? It's like, customer calls, hey, I'm running an Inconel job that has a lot of material to be removed, and I've never even heard of Inconel. How do I approach this? Our guys are happy to, help in that situation as well. So differentiating the organization is key in my mind. All right. And I knew Emil was waiting for this, differentiating the software. I'm firmly convinced we're the best CAM product on the market today. You know, I'll touch on a few things that should be basic for everybody. I still go back to when we're differentiating SolidCAM, iMachining stands out. Patented and proprietary piece of software. The thing that we're finding in the US that's getting a little bit more difficult is the Me Too's. Everybody's got some kind of high volume material removal strategy, and you really have to spend some time explaining the differences between iMachining and things like VoluMill or having a little brain lock here. Any of those other high volume material removal strategies. It is truly unique. I think you have to explain that we're taking into account machine, material, and tool being used. And iMachining is being enhanced release after release. So we're not just resting on our laurels, you know, saying iMachining is the greatest. You have to explain why and that it's being improved year over year. You know, the standard stuff works great, and the harder the material, the better. You're able to use small tools and get better results. Just a better strategy. It's patented and proprietary, so it is totally unique as compared to any other product on the market. You know, again, differentiating the software, I can't talk enough about the CAD integration piece. SolidWorks, we've been integrated into SolidWorks since 2002, Autodesk Inventor since 2007, integrated recently into NX for the iMachining module as well. So when you're talking about an integrated solution, it really has to be presented as streamlining the entire process for the manufacturer that's using SolidWorks to design their products. There's no file translation. If you talk to anybody about having to transfer a file from one software platform to another, it can be a nightmare. We've completely eliminated that step in the process of programming parts. Again, if the prospect is using SolidWorks already, the learning curve is greatly reduced, and you're operating in one software platform versus a separate CAD and CAM. Becomes very easy to pick up on SolidCAM if you have even a high level familiarity with SolidWorks. Automatic updates, again, if you're designing in SolidWorks, you programmed a part in SolidCAM, guess what? There was a design change. We automatically recognize that. The model can be automatically updated, or you can manually inspect the old toolpath and look at what changed, do a synchronize and calculate. That part based on the design change is automatically updated for ease of use and a better flow. So just a ton of advantages to working in the CAD environment. As far as the software, I always allude to really Mr. Somek being a kind of a forward thinker in this market, in that he really invested in the ability to control live tooling machines as much as 7-8 years ago, or put a lot of money at that point. I know we are always able to do it, but put a lot of money into research and development a long time ago to control live tooling machines. Just realized that the market was going that direction, got ahead of that curve, and our software for live tooling, and now Swiss, is second to none. And you know, we can control any machine out on the market, no matter how complex, again, with the qualifier, as long as it accepts standard normal G code. Again, differentiating the software. We're continually working on improving the product, come out with a new release year over year. The other thing that I really appreciate about this company is that, again, every customer has a voice. And if there's something that they feel could be beneficial in the software, we're not like this large conglomerate where you're just a little speck on the, you know, on their radar screen. Every customer at SolidCAM has a voice, and if they're aware of something that could be improved in the software or that would enhance their organization, I always stress we'd like to hear about that from you, and we'll take it into consideration. And if it's viable and makes sense, that will be added to the product. So kind of wrapping up differentiation of the software, iMachining, of course, the CAD integration, ability to control highly complex machines. If we could control those complex ones, imagine, we can control anything on the market. And then software improvements on an ongoing basis. So that's really what I had, Sydney, for today. I guess in wrapping up, my impression of any salesperson listening to this call is you have to be committed and passionate and truly believe that we're the best, which we are, and you'll definitely win your fair share of sales. So.
Okay. Steve, that was, as usual, it's always a pleasure listening to what you have to say. There's always a lot of value what you have to say. I know a lot of people have their own methods of working, but they're always willing to listen. And it was really a pleasure. Like I said, pleasure hearing you again.
Does that mean I have to send another check, Sid? No, in all seriousness, I hope everyone found it valuable, and I'm interested in sitting in on a lot more of these as well, because, boy, I have my methodology or what's kind of worked for me. I hope I somewhat got that across, but the thing in sales is ongoing learning, and that's what I enjoy about it too. If you think you know it all, it's you're kind of kidding yourself in my mind. So.
Okay, Steve, again, thanks very much. Everyone, this has been recorded, so this will be available later on for everyone to watch on our website in the resellers area. And you have a thank you and well done from Ron Davis. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. And we'll see you again at our next webinar. And thank you for your time, Steve.
My pleasure, Sid. Everyone have a good day and good selling.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.